This is Stephen Levine, CFO of Let's Talk Bitcoin. As someone who pays bills with Bitcoin, I find it immensely satisfying that I can pay our designer in Canada quickly and easily. A couple of button clicks and Bitcoin moves over miles and borders, unfettered by overbearing bureaucracy. It is our goal here at Let's Talk Bitcoin to create structures that allow Bitcoin and all of its descendants to thrive and grow into the safe, free, and fair invention that Satoshi wrote about. In my spare time, I'm also the president of Bitcoin Packaging. BitcoinPackaging.com makes it easy to use your currency of choice to purchase mundane products. We empower you to change the financial world by spending your Bitcoin. When you buy a product from BitcoinPackaging.com with Bitcoin, we will send you a 10% rebate off of the already low prices. BitcoinPackaging.com is a virtual company. We have no warehouse, trucks, or salespeople. Come to our store, take a look around, spend some Bitcoin and tell your friends. BitcoinPackaging.com.
So then let's talk about what the world looks like in 10 years. We were talking with, Andreas and Jeffrey were up here, and they were talking about the world of post-national currencies and denationalized currencies, and they were talking about it as if this was something that perhaps was 50 years out. But I think that in practice we've seen that when change happens, it tends to happen quite fast. And I'm curious, I suspect you've thought about this. What do you think happens if we win?
I'm not a utopia. I'm not like into utopias and stuff. I'm past dogma, and I'm not really into ideologies. I think there is too much of this labeling and categorizing. I think we should elevate the discussion to more talking about values and ethics. What kind of values do we want to promote in a society, and how can and it's one thing to talk about it should be like this, it should be like that, but the only way that people are going to adopt the things is if they're better than if the alternatives are better than what is already provided. And that's how we have to start thinking. We have to start thinking with being results oriented about what we need, and it's one of the biggest tragedies of our modern era, the great waste of human talent that we couldn't or wouldn't use. And if we can somehow think to apply that, that people is often working in jobs or doing things that's against their self-interest, but for money. But at some point you get to your life and you start to think, okay, how am I going to pay for this, or how am I going to have the healthcare, or do this? But to take that worry away from people and that people can do the things that matter, and then think, how can I make that sustainable? How can I use the market or the power of these tools to grow how I want to see the things? And if we're all doing this together, the more of us there are, the stronger we are. And fundamentally, people are good. There's a lot of people I see here today striving for good things and looking forwards to the future with the way that the things are heading, with the exponentially increasing. It doesn't matter what the roof on the resources is, but the exponentially increasing use of resources, the population is increasing, the rest of the world wants to also match our energy use. Combine all these together, we're going to hit that roof sooner or later. The police are being given more and more powers every day, more and more laws and legislation that they can use in how they want to enforce their vision of the world. The surveillance state is getting absolutely enormous. Like when the Snowden revelations first came out, it was. But
isn't this good? I mean, from the perspective of, you're saying that these systems can only take hold if they are so obviously better than the alternatives that we have before us. So isn't the fact, isn't that good from the perspective of now it's much more likely that these alternatives will be attractive relative to...
man, it's not. That's like saying war is good because it spurs innovation. It's like... And but it's like when the Snowden stuff came out, and in the beginning it was like, wow, this is cool. Like hackers have been saying this for a long time. If I can download a piece of software off the internet and in in a couple of hours, start tracking people's faces. You can bet that in London, with all the CCTV everywhere, it's already being done and logged in massive databases. But that with every revelation, it gets more and more crazy, more mind-blowing, the scale of this. And this is not targeted surveillance. This is dragnet surveillance, flying drones over entire neighborhoods, entire communities of people, and harvesting all of their communications and data. The logging 60 million phone calls in 1 month in France alone, and 70 million in Spain.
But again, it's that
usual.
Always the darkest before the dawn sort of thing. Again, in order for the alternative to emerge, again, if everything was great, why would these systems be appealing?
It's gonna, the things is polarizing a lot more, and for a lot of people, it's gonna get very, very bad. But the things is, we're in an economic downturn. With the massively burgeoning bureaucratic state and all the red tape, and meanwhile, for the normal person, they're working 9 to 5, doing jobs they increasingly hate for less and less pay, and for what? For a box in the city.
But again, this is it just seems like all of these things that you're saying, these are reasons why people aren't invested in the current paradigm. If they were successful with their job, if they were happy with the place that they live.
But a lot of people is continuing to do the things the same way, and they will continue.
Well, what are the alternatives? This is the thing, is that these... Anyways,
The thing is, people is the future is not going to be like a sudden crash or like some apocalypse. It's going to be like the things declining and getting a lot more oppressive, a lot more harder to live. With all the scarcity of the resources as well. But meanwhile, that's why we've got to put our minds together and think, okay, how can we build something for the future that we as free people can survive and thrive and grow as a culture? And it's not only about making this project or that project, but about the idea. Because once you make something that shows that it's possible, the imagination is there. You do it a couple times more here, then people start to reproduce with the documentation on the internet. These are the steps you need to take, and then people go and they start to replicate it. And that's how you grow as a culture and take the things over.
Okay, we just have another couple of minutes, but I want to talk to you about Libitcoin.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, Libitcoin. The second time I heard you speak was on the Plan B show back in maybe August or September, and you explained that you were working on Libitcoin, which is an alternative implementation of the Bitcoin specification, because right now the world that we live in with only the Satoshi client as the primary implementation is a world like one where you only have Internet Explorer.
Yeah, one of the biggest threats to Bitcoin is centralization of development. Now, it's not enough that the source code is open source. There's a lot of decisions deep down on the technical level that only very few people understand, like Peter Todd or a handful of other people. And when you're faced with that decision between A or B, if your motive is slightly corrupted, if you're, maybe you're working for some corporation, maybe you might take the choice B, which slightly favors, corporations over black markets, and, then next time it happens again and again, and it's not like some sudden big backdoor put in by the government. It's the sum of many small steps that slowly morph Bitcoin into something very different from the Bitcoin with the principles of Satoshi encoded into there. It becomes a gov coin or a corp coin, and it's no longer serving the interests of the people. A Bitcoin, the Bitcoin for small businesses, for peer-to-peer transfers, for the black market. We already see, and it's not only about the protocol or certain consensus development decisions. It's also about features, about where do we as a people invest our time and energies. Because just like the internet, there are people who develop technologies to track people, to surveil people, to censor people, to limit people's freedom, and this is And it doesn't even have to come from corporations, you know. It can come from ourselves, from Bitcoin corporations that say, we need to protect our liability, we need to protect our interest, and going and implementing features like the blacklists or triangulation of transactions or any number of different features that we can't foresee right now, but you know, in the future there will be that pressure, that inertia to develop those things. But we need actually people who's developing Bitcoin in the spirit or with the integrity of what Bitcoin was intended for, a tool to serve people, to serve a market which empowers everybody. And it's very important that we have the voice in that development circle. And we're not going to get that voice by going to the foundation and asking to be part of their inner circles. The way that we're going to get the voice is by forcing the issue, by making software that's better, that people want to use. And the way that it's going to be better is by playing on our strengths. What strengths do we have? We have software that is equitable, that everybody can use, that everybody can transact with their anonymity intact, that they can use crypto features unencumbered with one another, and that is what we have to do with Bitcoin, and moving away from this image of Bitcoin as a tool to buy a drink in a bar, you know, as something to make it easier for you to shop in the supermarket, you know, like, yeah, I've got my iPhone, yeah, ooh, using Bitcoin. You know, I'm not criticizing that, but I'm saying there's a bigger reason for Bitcoin. That Bitcoin brings us new tools, you know, that we can exploit. Everybody can use these tools, and that we can use it to really construct something different, like that hasn't ever been imagined before possible, and is better than what exists. Like the crypto features, and with the dark wallet, we want to bring these features out to the people, for the young entrepreneurs, you know, the tools of trade and business of the future. And then it goes beyond just new finance. The blockchain is an amazing new data structure that we can use. And it goes into things about resource management. How can communities or groups of people, it used to be that we had small communities before, but now we have the technology to link up these communities and actually make them scale on a bigger level, for people to be able to organize together on a much larger scale. Tools of governance. You know, I spend a lot of time in community seeing how do the people govern. And each one has a different culture, just like every open source project has a different culture. There are different models with different trade-offs that serve different people. And that's the problem with having one government enforced by one state. You know, maybe there could be startup governments like what the CIC is doing in Catalonia. They are using the legal structure of a cooperative.
Well, so let me give you the lightning question here, because we're just about out of time. Amir, this has been great. Okay, so at the beginning of this conversation, I said that you have ideology that's important to you. In the middle of this conversation, you told me that you don't identify with ideology anymore, and instead it's about values. So in less than, you know, a minute, can you articulate what you think the most important values are for you?
I have a list somewhere. I met this Jeff Berwick guy last night, and he was telling me about his plan, yeah, to get some African nation, pay off the government and the politicians, divide it up into shares, and sell the country out. And I was like, what if some guy buys up half the country? And he's like, what? It's private property, you know? And I was like, but who enforces that? And he goes, you have the right to enforce that. That for me is so f***ed up, like that you just that some rich white goes and buys half the country, puts his mansion there, and says, this is my space with the guns and the military. It's another mafia, and you know. That's not for me.
No more mafias.
No mafias, no. And it's like, it's not about, I want my sovereignty, f the other guy. No, it's like, I want my sovereignty, we want our sovereignty, and I'm going to link with my friends and do the things together. What is better than to live with your friends working on cool projects with swimming pools, you know, a gym, boxing gym, hack lab, cinema, all for yourself, and you own the land together, you know, like a massive space where you can have big party and nice girls around and live free and do what you want, you know, and have all your friends come and visit you, and like and not only like 100 people, 10,000, a million, and all having fun and being free. That's the way to live. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.